Do you really think you understand what romantic tension is just because you've binge-watched dozens of dramas in the Netflix catalog? Well, we usually think we've seen it all, until watching Dynamite Kiss and realizing there is a before and after this series in the year 2025. Here are 7 real curiosities that explain the explosion that is Dynamite Kiss. The first fundamental curiosity to understand the series' success concerns the mind behind this perfectly organized chaos. Director Kim Jae-hyun. Many people started the drama finding the direction visually different, with cuts that seemed strange for a comedy. And this strangeness is no accident. Kim Jae-hyun isn't exactly the type of director you would expect to see commanding an office drama featuring an explosive kiss and diapers. For those who haven't connected the name to the face, he was responsible for the mega-hit $1 Lawyer in 2022, a legal drama focused on justice and that acid humor that cuts through courtroom tension. In other words, he comes from a universe where every scene is thought out millimeter by millimeter to keep the audience on the edge of their seat, with many sharp cuts, dramatic close-ups, and a constant sense of urgency. Furthermore, he also worked on the production of Now We Are Breaking Up, which, despite being a romance, has a much more serious and melancholic vibe. Think about the risky bet the broadcaster SBS made by deciding to take this professional accustomed to courtrooms and jury tension to direct a romantic office comedy with a fake baby in the middle. The result is a drama that is visually much more sophisticated than the average. The way he frames the boss observing the protagonist and the small details of expression the camera captures come from this procedural drama background. The second curiosity is about the protagonist, Yong, and why this drama isn't just another job on his resume. Dynamite Kiss marks the second time he works with director Kim Jae-hyun, consolidating a partnership that began behind the scenes of Now We Are Breaking Up. It was there that the two created a relationship of trust that can be felt through the screen. According to statements by the director himself in press conferences, when he read the description of the character Gong Ji-hyuk in the script, a team leader who seems cold and urban on the outside, but on the inside is clumsy and almost innocent, he had no doubt at all. The first image that came to his mind was Yong. The actor has this physical capacity to appear distant, elegant, and like that typical, unreachable boss. But he manages to deliver vulnerability in very small details, like a gaze that looks away when he is embarrassed or a smile that comes out at the wrong time. This previous connection and the friendship between director and actor gave Yong a rare freedom to play with the character. Several details that we associate today with Ji-hyuk's personality, such as the nervous hand ticks when he is near babies or baby products, were not written in the original script. They were creations of the actor himself, which started as improvisation during rehearsals and stayed in the final edit because they worked very well visually. The feeling we get while watching is that the protagonist isn't a character pushed into a ready-made story. He seems like someone organic who was born from that creative partnership. That's why his acting has so much nuance. He is never just the cold boss or just the cute romantic partner. He is always there, in an uncomfortable middle ground, trying to maintain the executive pose while the world around him is literally exploding in diapers, lies, and feelings he cannot name. The third curiosity involves breaking an almost sacred rule of Korean dramaturgy. If there is one thing Dynamite Kiss made a point of throwing out the window right off the bat, it was the famous episode 8 rule. This has become almost a silent pact among drama fans. You know you're going to suffer through slow development, and you know you're going to spend half the series waiting for a hand touch. Not here. Here the title is Dynamite Kiss, and they decided to take that literally. Right at the end of the first episode, the series delivers a kiss that, in any other traditional drama, would be the grand climax moment of the entire season. And we aren't talking about a discreet and shy peck. It is a kiss with emotional weight, full of context and intense, in the middle of a chaotic meeting on Jeju Island, even before they meet again in the office environment in Seoul. The most interesting thing about this narrative choice isn't the kiss itself, but rather what the writers do with it afterward. Instead of treating this moment as the final goal, they treat it as the starting point of the problem. The series structure is inverted. The romantic act happens first, and everything that usually comes before, the tension, the approach, and the internal confusion, comes later, in the form of regret and public embarrassment. This completely transforms the dynamic of the main couple. The question that hooks the audience stops being, when will they kiss? And becomes, how will they manage to coexist and work together after what they did? This simple change alters the type of tension we feel while watching. The curiosity isn't if a romance will emerge, but what kind of romance will survive after something so impulsive. And to top it off, all this takes place inside a rigid work environment, with hierarchy and etiquette rules. The The fourth curiosity is about the gigantic leap that actress An Yun Jin had to make in her career to play the character Go Da-rim. She was coming from the monumental and dramatic success of My Dearest, a heavy period drama with war and suffering at high emotional volume. Suddenly, with almost no time to rest her image, she enters a completely different universe, a contemporary romantic comedy about a single woman who lies about being a mother to get a job. Do you have any idea of the technical challenge it is to go from a scenario of historical destruction to a modern office full of pastel colors? To handle this transition and not make the character a caricature, the actress took the lying part very seriously. She revealed in interviews that she spent a good amount of time reading accounts from real mothers on online forums, focusing on those who spoke honestly about exhaustion and guilt. She also observed mothers in parks, paying attention to how they held children and how they automatically adjusted clothes, small gestures that our brain recognizes as true. But there is a crucial detail. Her character isn't a real mother, so she needed to balance two performances in one, appearing convincing enough to fool the other characters, but still making basic enough mistakes for us, the audience, to remember that it is a farce. That is where her refined talent comes in. She confuses technical terms, gets details about diaper sizes wrong, and says things any real mother would find strange. But she does this with a face so sincere and convincing that we understand the reason why the boss believes her. Korean critics heavily praised her ability to transition between comedic panic and real vulnerability. Go Da-rim isn't just a funny character who lies for sport. She is the portrait of someone cornered by a difficult hiring system who chooses the lie as a last resort for survival. The fifth curiosity highlights an essential figure in this plot, the fake husband who arrived to help and almost destroys everything. Every great lie needs an accomplice, and in Dynamite Kiss, this role belongs to the character Kim Sun-woo, played by Kim Moo-jun. He plays the protagonist's best friend who just wanted to live his life quietly, but ends up being pulled into the eye of the storm. You might remember the actor from Love All Play, but here he appears with a completely different energy, light, clumsy, and almost chaotic. Instead of building a heavy romantic triangle, the drama bets on something much more interesting, a friendly complicity that generates confusion, but doesn't enter that toxic line of romantic rivalry. He functions in the plot almost like a comedic time bomb. In every scene where he needs to appear at the office or at dinners to sustain the lie that he is the husband and father of the child, you physically feel that something is going to go wrong, and it usually does. Whenever he opens his mouth, there is a 50% chance of giving everything away unintentionally, whether due to nervousness or because he can't memorize the versions of the story. The most curious thing about the behind the scenes is that this chemistry of lost best friends worked so well that the writers decided to increase his screen time during production. Originally, the character wouldn't have as much prominence, but it became clear to the direction that the dynamic between the two gave a special freshness to the scenes, creating a second layer of humor that alleviated the tension of the main romance. He is that loyal friend who loves you, but whom you would never call to cover up a crime because he would certainly ruin the alibi. The sixth curiosity involves one of the most intelligent and ironic elements of the drama's world building, the setting of the Mother Task Force team. Instead of placing the protagonist in a generic office, the writers created an entire team dedicated exclusively to the development of baby products. The delicious irony of this choice is that the only person there in that room who is supposedly a mother is blatantly lying. The production did detailed research on the childcare industry in South Korea to build this fictional company credibly. This appears in the details of the sets, with prototypes of futuristic strollers, shelves full of baby bottles, and boards with complex charts about diaper absorption. The humor of the series is born largely from this absurd visual contradiction. Seeing men in suits, serious, in super chic glass meeting rooms, discussing with scientific seriousness the performance of a diaper. At the same time, the protagonist is there in the middle, pretending she understands motherhood deeply, when in reality, she is balancing on top of a house of cards. This setting also functions as a social metaphor. It is a world where motherhood is transformed into a product and a quarterly sales target. And in the middle of this, we have a character who is performing this role not because she wants to deceive out of malice, but because she knows that without this social label of mother, she probably wouldn't have been hired. The Mother Task Force team is funny, visually interesting, and also a subtle critique of how the market deals with personal themes like childcare, treating everything as a commodity. The seventh curiosity is about the unmistakable signature of the writers, especially co-writer Ha Yoon-ah, known for having written Mystic Pop-Up Bar. If you've seen this previous drama, you know she has a penchant for stories that take the ordinary everyday and season it with almost surreal elements and bizarre coincidences. In Dynamite Kiss, there are no ghosts or magic. but the way fate seems to conspire against the protagonist has that vibe of the universe messing with people's lives. Every time she thinks she has managed to stabilize the lie, some absurd situation appears. An unexpected visit from the boss's family, or a specific question asked at the wrong time. It is as if the script is constantly pushing the characters to the limit of stress, just to see how far the structure of this lie can hold up without breaking. This is very much the writer's style. She likes to build plots where the audience needs to accept a certain dose of exaggeration and coincidence, not to take everything too seriously, but to embark on the game of fun. The pacing is also her trademark, with scenes that start in a banal way and end in complete chaos. Dynamite Kiss asks the audience to suspend disbelief a little and accept that, in that universe, fate does indeed have a sense of humor, and it is cruel and loves to chase those who lie.